I hate when people use the word free, and she does it very strategically and well. Other people don't. It's not free. It's part of the price you're
That's right.
already paying with your Microsoft 365 account. So this is one of those things when we start looking at cost benefit analysis, we're already paying on a per user basis for people to have M365 Enterprise. Let them also use this new tool, and
Yeah.
we can use it without having any additional costs, as opposed to buying a different software, getting the same-ish level of protection, but having to pay more on a per user basis.
Well, hello, everybody. It's another episode of AI Got This. We're in January. Happy New Year 2025. Exciting stuff. I'm in the Northeast, and I will tell you it is cold here. But we've got some exciting topics today. Kathy and Gina are back with us. You probably remember them from last year. And we're going to do a little bit talking about GPT sort of platforms and how that works and what that looks like. But as a reminder for everybody, maybe you guys could just take a quick second and introduce yourselves, and then we'll dive right in. Kathy, why don't you go first?
Okay, my name is Kathy Ferguson. I am not an AI specialist. However, I have really geeked out on it and gotten into it. But traditionally, I am a auditor. I am a CPA. I work with nonprofit clients. I work with private schools. I work with those types of organizations, helping them with their financial statement audit, but also finding solutions like this that can help them move into the next century as well.
Fantastic. Gina?
Yes, hi everybody. It's Gina Montgomery again. Nice to see you. I am the Director of AI Automation and Analytics here at Armanino, and I have a background in Microsoft. So everything on the modern work side, which brings us to discussing some of the latest announcements today with Copilot as an example. So that's really where my background and subject matter expertise lies, and happy to be here.
Awesome. Well, why don't since you brought it up, Gina, why don't you maybe just give everyone a little highlight of what is the announcement that Microsoft made in this month? Because I think it's pretty important.
Yes. So on January 15th, Satya Nadella, Microsoft CEO, made an announcement that Microsoft was going to introduce I'm going to put it in quotes, free version of Copilot Chat, which, if you think about M365 Copilot, there was a business chat function inside of that everyone has access to who is licensed for M365 Copilot. And that is grounded in your tenant data. So it's graph grounded. Microsoft's graph underpins M365 Copilot. So any kind of content, whether it be data you're storing in SharePoint or OneDrive, or in Teams or in email or conversations you're having in Teams, the graph will process that and allows you through Microsoft's business chat in M365 Copilot to get graph grounded responses. So if you're asking questions about something specific that might have been living in that content or data in your tenant, that's what graph grounded means. So that was already here and a part of that license. The announcement on the 15th was this free version of chat, but we're calling it Copilot Chat. And that is web grounded. So it's not graph grounded, and it doesn't cover off on content that you're creating in the tenant broadly, but anything that you might upload in Copilot Chat, which is web grounded, is saved to your OneDrive. So it is protected by your enterprise data protection, not to make it totally muddy. But that was the big announcement, was how do we get our toe in the water with customers who aren't ready to fully invest in an M365 Copilot license, but getting Copilot into everyone's hands was one of Microsoft's big plays for this year. So that's where that came from. And then also enabling low code development, right? And so allowing agents to be built by end users, should your organization allow that from an IT perspective, that is now free, plus a consumption-based option that you can build on that web-grounded Copilot Chat. So that was the other piece of the announcement, was the ability for all end users to be able to create web-grounded agents or graph-grounded agents in a consumption model. So it's a pretty big announcement that Microsoft made that allows customers to have some options now before they make that M365 Copilot license investment.
Yeah, I think a couple of things just really quick for everybody. If you don't know what M365 is, those are your Office products, Outlook, Word, PowerPoint, Excel. So just know that. And then I think the other thing that's super interesting about this is they've had Copilot sort of in being for a while, but it wasn't a protected version. And also just so we're clear when we talk about this, what that means is that you can put stuff into the Edge version of Copilot that is in your company's graph and tenant, and analyze that data. But also, it will go pull information from the World Wide Web in. If you ask questions, it does not publish it out. So that's what we mean by secure. Okay, Kathy, I know that you and I have been talking about this for a little while. I know you got pretty excited about this. What does this mean for well, I'm going to say, what does it mean for Armanino? Because I know we're doing something with this, and you're kind of spearheading this here, even though I know you say you don't know AI, but I'm going to say, yes, you do, Mr. College. So tell me a little bit about why you think this is important and the impact it's having on your team, your work, what the way you're thinking about GPTs or LLMs in the organization.
Yeah. So Gina sounded very smart, man. She just knew it. She knew all the words back there. So for all the IT people tuning in, Gina's talking to you. For everybody else, I'm talking to you. I will say this was a game changer for us. So as a firm, we were looking at, if we had protected versions of other softwares, whether they were Chat GPT or what are they, how we could utilize them, how we could, and what were some of the benefits. The difference in what was the game changer here was because we all have Microsoft 365 accounts, we're already protected. And that is my layman terms. We already have an enterprise account. Since we have an enterprise account, we could give. So if we have 2,500 employees, we had invested in a very small minority having ChatGPT licenses or other licenses. We could open this up with no additional cost to us to where this web version, whether they use Edge or Chrome or whatever they use, as long as they're logged into their Microsoft 365 enterprise account, they could use this Copilot web version to fully have a chat GPT like experience if that's what they were used to, right? Because that's how they see it in their minds. But they could have this interface and they could analyze things, they could use things, but also because it was in their Microsoft 365 enterprise account, anything they loaded really just went to their OneDrive. And that was the thing that for us, once we sat down and really looked at that, when you were loading something in, this is the graph and all the fun things back there that Gina's talking about. They were really just loading it to their OneDrive and letting that software talk to something that was on their OneDrive so they could use it. It was secure. It was something we could roll out to 2,500 employees. And Gina quotes free, and I will say free is, I hate when people use the word free, and she does it very strategically and well. Other people don't. It's not free. It's part of the price you're
That's right.
already paying with your Microsoft 365 account. So this is one of those things when we start looking at cost benefit analysis, we're already paying on a per user basis for people to have M365 Enterprise. Let them also use this new tool and
Yeah.
we can use it without having any additional costs as opposed to buying a different software, getting the same-ish level of protection, but having to pay more on a per user basis.
Yeah. I think that's
Carmel,
really smart. Go ahead, Gina.
yeah, I just wanted to add, like, Armanino, we are going through our own M365 Copilot adoption journey, but we're doing it with a pilot of about 300 users right now. So that investment in those licenses is only for 300 users. So when Kathy came to the table with this use case of using this, again, quote, free Copilot chat option for her audit department for their particular use case, this enabled them to quickly, in a secure way, start leveraging Copilot without having to be part of the licensed users. So just so you know, like I wanted to point that out because Armanino, while we're adopting the free version, we're also adopting the license-based version as well for some of our business users that are in that world. So I just wanted to point that out that we're not one or the other, but this enabled us to get hands-on quickly to broader amounts of users.
Yeah.
Well, and
I'm going
Gina,
to come
really
back to
did make
that, to the launch in just a second. Sorry, Kathy, did you have something else you want to add?
Yeah, I was just going to say, and to add to that, like when people are looking at what software to use, to Gina's point, it might make more sense. We could probably begin to invest more into our Microsoft 365 accounts. Why? And because we've now identified a platform that it's like we're already in the pool. We don't have to jump in, and we're up to here at the pool anyways. So this is probably a better place for us to go swimming than trying to say, oh, well, Gemini or this other tool or this tool might be good. If we're already swimming in the pool, man, how much it's easier to pick your feet up when you're already in the water than it is for you to have to get in a whole new pool. So
Yeah, agreed. And I think, it's something that we talked about a little bit last year. We talk about it in terms of like a platform play. And I don't think we're there yet. We're not the industry, the accessibility, we're still in the infancy stages of, okay, who's going to come out on top here, right? Like what is going to be the next Google? And y'all hear me talk about this all the time. The beginning of search engines and Ask Jeeves and Atlas and all that, and those don't really exist anymore, right? But at the beginning of the internet, you would search on 5 or 6, 7, 8 different search engines to get the answer that, who had the best data and how do I get the right answer? And I think we're going to see that eventually in the AI world as well, that we'll get to a couple of high-end platform plays that will make sense. But right now, I completely agree with you, Kathy. If you're a Google shop, you might want to look a little bit closer at Gemini because it will then talk to all the other Google things that you're looking at. If you're a Microsoft shop, Copilot might be the best investment for you because of all of those things. And I think that's really important for people to think about, right? Like we haven't really talked about that before, but it's a big part of how we identify the best solution based on your needs and your requirements, not just like, hey, we really like Gemini or we really like Claude. Well, I like all those things, but that doesn't mean it's always the right fit for you, right? And so I think that's an important distinction. So let's pivot just a tiny bit because I think that's awesome. But I think the other thing that, Gina, you mentioned that, we're going through our own implementation of Copilot with licenses. Maybe you could expand a little bit more on what that means, because I think it's important for people to understand that they're part of the process of looking at, hey, let's go adopt some AI solutions. You can say that and just go turn a bunch of stuff on. But if you don't build use cases that are relevant for the people that are going to be using it, and then also a plan to launch to educate them on, hey, let me help you with how we do this. We've seen, and we know this because we did it ourselves, that we don't find that to be very successful for people. They don't know how to build their own use cases, but if you can help them get to that place, it's really good. And you actually both have something on this, but Gina, talk about the launch program and some of the use cases, and then Kathy, I'm going to come back to you and talk about what we're doing as a firm with like we've got a council now where people are focusing on their use cases for the work that they do. I'm not an accountant. I'm not going to be able to go build your use cases, but I'm going to work with you to help, right? To guide. So Gina, maybe start with the launch plan that we're doing today.
Absolutely. AI enablement is a maturity journey, right? And part of that framework of trying to figure out what platforms am I already invested in that I should test, what use cases do I have? All of that becomes really important in your maturity journey for AI enablement. So there could be some products like Copilot or ChatGPT or whatever, Claude, whatever that is. There could be products that you've invested in that you just need some special attention on out of the box use case adoption, right? And like defining what those are. It could be something that's more complicated that would take you to the next level of the maturity journey that would require some like custom agent development or custom GPT development. And then it could be even further in your adoption journey, your maturity journey, to where you're building your own large language models. And now we're looking for, orchestration and automation and autonomous AI. So like you've got to think about AI enablement as a maturity journey. So as Armanino was thinking about our platforms that we have, we're M365 users here, and we wanted to see how M365 Copilot could change the way we work. And so we started with a 300 user pilot. And as part of that, knowing how M365 Copilot is not a flip of the switch technology, just because you've bought it doesn't mean that your users will change the way they work or even understand what value it can bring. So what we're doing here internally is we've themed up an adoption journey for our pilot group. And we're calling it Armanino's Copilot Cosmic Adventure. So it's space themed and it's fun. I'm part of the mission crew. Carmel's our flight director, AKA our executive sponsor. But in that is we're taking onboarding groups of users who are in similar roles, right? So trying to pair them up into groups, bringing them on board in a 6-week adoption journey where we help them understand the art of the possible of M365 Copilot. What does it do? What can it do? And I show a very special use case in our kickoff call. And then over the next few days, they have to take 15-minute app-based trainings that we've pre-recorded. And then on that following Friday, we'll do what we call a strategic navigation workshop, which is space-themed. But there we're trying to flesh out what initial use cases or problems in their day-to-day work, what keeps them up at night and getting tasks done, what roadblocks get in the way, what do those processes look like today? We want to flesh all those out. And so that as we continue on the adoption journey in the following 4 weeks, where we feed them snackable trainings, 2-minute videos of, hey, have you tried this prompt? Have you tried that? Have you tried this? Teaching them along the way to inspire them on, further use cases that we have. And then come the end of the 6 weeks, now we've got a value framework. We're able to discern themes and value, right? So for us in our first cohort, there were things like accuracy and improved, efficiency and productivity came out. There were things like that were fleshed out in our first cohort. We were able to put value levers against that and then measure specific things. Like 80% of the users in that group were saving 10 plus minutes per day in this process or this task, which equated to this amount of time over the course of a year, which there's $1 saving. So just being able to build that value framework and then measure that, against as you go is a great way to get that adoption journey going. And then at the end of the 6 weeks, we've got those use cases listed. We're able to then plot against that what might be out of the box when you think about your maturity graph, right? What's out of the box for Copilot? What's not? And what's not, are those easily built as Copilot agents, or should we look at something like ChatGPT, which we also have access to? So there's that, and like once you've discerned what's custom requirements, then you might want to go through a process mapping exercises, which is what we're doing internally on the AI Council right now, is leveraging our process mapping skills for custom use cases, because understanding those processes can get even more granular on what the value becomes from bringing those to life. So
I love that. I love that. And one of the things that I think you said, which I think is really important, is you talked about saving 10 minutes per day doing something, right? So we said this at the end of last year, and we've talked about this a few times, but I think just to reiterate, AI is doing some stuff that is really interesting, and we're seeing the adoption now start pick up. And where, depending on where you are in your journey, you may be getting more efficiencies as you continue up that graph, right? But I think the thing that we want to make sure that everybody understands is that turning on Copilot and getting some of these efficiencies doesn't mean you're saving days at a time. You're making small incremental improvements as you go that are time saving, that in the long run will build up to a significant amount of time saving. But we're not identifying, oh, hey, I just took 8 hours out of my day. Now I'm free. I can do anything I want, right? So yeah, awesome. That's awesome. Kathy, talk a little bit about how
Yeah,
you're
so I would
rolling
say
out.
here's what's interesting about the rollout and the way that things are going. I think the key to me is flexibility, because AI is really in, if you think about when you have a newborn all the way up to 1 year's age, every week something changes about that baby, right? You
Yeah.
might say, oh, I'm going to set Pumpkin right here beside me on the bed while I'm doing this. And Pumpkin doesn't do anything. Well, 2 weeks later, she's rolling over and you're like, whoa, calm down. And a few weeks later, she's trying to inch off the bed. And then I mean, you have to be flexible with how you're going to deal with that baby. AI is a lot like that. If you do a 6 weeks implementation, that's great. But if you come up with a plan on day one you're not going to do that same plan 2 weeks, 4 weeks, 6 weeks later. You have to be very flexible about the way that that plan implements. For instance, if we put this plan in place on January 1st, well, January 15th comes out this new, oh, guess what? Now you have this version that you can use that's part of your Microsoft 365 account. It's going to be part of your enterprise account. And I will say, even when that came out, we said, oh, we'll shift and do this. Well, now, and this, by the time you watch this, it might have changed, but the upload capabilities, they've really limited the upload capabilities on those licenses because so many people jumped in and started using it, but they're moving that. And so we'll come up with a way to work around that. And then they'll turn around and increase the load capacity a week after that, right?
Yep,
And
yep.
so little things like that, I think that is why the flexibility of having some councils that can continue to communicate, because it's not a, oh, we found out this was an issue, we came up with a solution, and that solution was long term. You really have to look at it with, what do we need to do right now? And this will evolve very, very quickly. And so it may change 3 weeks later. So how do you have an adaptability along that process while still encouraging people to get in now? You don't want to wait till this is an adult. It would be like you coming in and saying, you know what, I don't want to parent that kid until they're 16 or so because they're changing too quickly. You're going to be so far behind the curve, and you're never going to have the relationship with them that somebody did that was there from day one.
I love that analogy. I also love, so one of the things that I think is super important too, when we talk about the AI council, right? So those use cases, you're building use cases for your team and your organization, and then sharing that with other people in the audit group, as an example. We've got folks that are doing that for tax. We've got folks that are doing that for consulting. And the thing that I think I want to make a point about this is, while people a lot of times have a central AI governing person or team of people, it's really important to have advocates and people that are enthusiastic and willing to try and willing to look at the different use cases in your business, especially when you're a fairly large size. I mean, we've got what, 3,000 plus people. That's not easy for one person to communicate all the use cases or go identify all the use cases. So having groups of people that are evangelizing, enthusiastic, and helping to create those use cases and get the message across is really strategically important for organizations as they think about adoption and how they want to take this stuff forward. Okay, we're almost at time. Any last parting words from anyone?
Have fun, enjoy it, but also don't assume that what you see today. I love it whenever Carmel said, which by the way, I would jump on any ship that Carmel was driving, just so you know. So I love that she's driving the ship. But the thing I heard her say is that AI you use today is the least sophisticated, dumbest, for lack of better word, AI that you're ever going to use. And it's true. It continues to grow. So jump in, get your hands dirty, but also question. And then when you question, go, okay, and is this potentially going to adapt? Is this going to move? Is this going to continue to evolve in this particular area?
Yeah, I love that. Gina, any parting words from you? You're on mute. Gina, you're on mute, my friend.
No, sorry. Yeah, I was
Okay.
just gonna say my parting words are, AI enablement is a maturity journey, and I don't recommend you just pick a platform and go that route, right? Like, it's really got to be use case based, and then understanding what makes sense for your business, and understanding also like what might be out of the box adoption and how do you move up from there, right? And so it's a journey, and anyone that wants to talk more about that, we're here for you and appreciate the time.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thank you both. This was amazing as usual. I always enjoy talking to both of you, and hopefully everybody got something out of this. We're in the process of putting our schedule together, our whole schedule together for 2025. I don't have the next topic at hand right now, but we'll see you in February. Thank you. Hope you enjoyed another episode of AI Got This. Take care.